In this video, I want to show you how to install a Minimal Devuan Linux distribution. Devuan is a Linux distribution based on Debian, but with the difference of removal systemd. The current version is built Wolf, and it's actually turned into a very interesting project for somebody that wants just the minimum things. The fact that it's actually not having dependencies on systemd brings some set of challenges in terms of how to control the boot, just like the old way Linux used to do things. But for some folks, actually, it's been very interesting. Everybody will remember back in the day, Nopix is the king of live CDs. And the intent of this is actually build a live CD out of this Devuan distribution. It's not for everybody. There's some specific use cases for this. A couple years ago, I put a video that actually demonstrated how to create a Debian distribution in 10 minutes with Debootstrap. It was very well embraced by the community. I like to go ahead and follow up on the project, even though with this video, because there's been some updates on the kernel and the things they're doing. A couple years ago, also was posted in GitHub. I posted a repository for DenOS and performed just that. This creation is going to be based on running on VirtualBox, and this particular time is going to be running Ubuntu, the latest version. I just installed it. I want to use it as a regular user. I'm SSH into that user, as you can see. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm on my home directory. I want to make a directory, my DenOS. That's my workspace. There I am. There's nothing there. So from the Git repository, there's a file to get started. It's very easy. Go ahead and go to the raw file, which is nothing but just a bunch of wget files. And you can just go ahead and pretty much just about get that file. Change permissions, chmod 755 to make it executable. And give it a shot. Fire in the hole. What this is going to do is actually going to connect to the GitHub, and it's going to download the necessary files for you to perform the Devuan installation. Once it gets all the files that it needs, it's going to change the permissions, and you're going to have the opportunity to go ahead and start executing the script from 1 to 5. The longer description is on the previous videos. So if we take a look, this is what we have. The first thing is actually the dependencies, which actually I can run the first script, which is the Devuan prereqs. It's nothing but just apt-get updates. You can go back and take a look to the content of the file. The 01 to the prereqs is just basically on your system, just apt install some of the dependencies. Once it's done, you can actually go there and execute, as indicated, the next script, which is DenOS Bootstrap. That file is actually being updated in the repository. As you can see, it's downloading from the main Devuan repository, is the latest version. One of the updates that script has been updated, it's updated the stable kernel. So you can see, instead of reference a particular kernel, now we are actually referencing the Linux image 64. Actually, this is 0302. 02 is Debootstrap. Here we go. The source is actually the version is stable. This is really cool because in the future, when more things come in, it's not going to be linked to a particular kernel. It's just going to look for the latest stable. If you need to go ahead and experiment, do something with the newest version of the kernel, just change the stable for whatever is the staging. If you ever install Linux from scratch, you can see all this bunch of files. It's almost like the first stage of installing Linux from scratch. Installing almost like a baby version of Linux, creating your initial environment, and from there you root into that environment to actually build your real system. Almost like what is first, the chicken or the egg. Start creating a little small, minimal, pre-stage environment on the environment that you want to be living in, and then once you root into that, then you build the whole operating system. That's kind of the way it works. Now, as you can see, the packages are the same. As soon as this finishes, the bootstrap, we're going to be root into that. The distribution that we're going to be running is the minimum distribution, which is going to be the Uh, the one doesn't have X, it's exclusively the 03. And that's the one is linked together, not to particular kernel, just to the Linux image AMD64. Couple things were added. The user add, you have the ability to comment a couple lines here. And if this is a live CD, you can actually have a live users with live password. You can change the live password right here in text mode. Nothing fancy. I'm on a chroot environment. I want to go ahead and give it a shot to the Devuan chroot. And it's going to execute just this script. And it's going to go ahead and start getting another update on install the appropriate kernel and all the packages. Additionally, I add a couple packages here like HTOP, PS3, Nmap, wget, and Git. I really think those tools, including BIM, is tools that actually any Linux distribution should have. So regardless of whatever is your case, you might want to get a live Linux CD for maybe for set up an internet cafe, probably to set up a training center to some specific software, probably to set up a security surveillance camera, maybe to start setting up as a video player with some things as a read-only. You need a very specific small distribution to do specific things, and it's not for everybody, live distros. It can be really handy. You can use it as a recovery CD. I mean, there's a number of reasons why you might want to have a live bootable ISO with your custom packages, with your custom software. Maybe you're doing branding, some marketing things. You want to explore some software. You're going into a CD and give it for people to test it. Maybe you want to encrypt the whole operating system and just kind of give it as a bootable and it just works. Maybe some kind of little lamp all together working, booted, and it just works. It's read only. So whatever you do is going to be doing on RAM. So that could be a different number of use cases, whatever might be the case. You might have the need to add another user. This is a way to you can just uncomment. I did not leave it uncommented because I don't want to force anybody to open security risk. Just uncomment the user add and the user change password if you need to. Other than that, everything's the same, but the ability is there. This is a video for Minimal Devuan Distribution. Eventually, we're going to go and build a video for the graphical. I really like the Mate. They did a good job. Unfortunately, there's some dependencies on KDE and GNOME in the graphical interface for Debian and Devuan. We'll go through that sometime later, but at this time, let's stay focused on this one. This is actually working on the Devuan minimum live CD. No live user, it's only the root user at this time. And it's going to be just the command line. It's going to have some extra packages like wget, htop. It's going to have internet connectivity. It's going to have a full Devuan live distribution in about, I don't know, it's about 300 megs. Something really small. The footprint on RAM is extremely low too. It's very efficient in terms of memory management. You have, this is asking for my keyboard language. I want to select one, English, and it's going to continue. The last thing is going to ask in this script, it's going to ask me for a root password, which I can do whatever I want to do. And there you go. And that's about done. I can exit the root environment, give it a shot to script number 4, which actually this is the part. This is probably one of the most important parts and takes the more lengthy because it depends on the CPU and memory and your system. Kind of put it together. Of course, the previous step depends on your bandwidth and your internet connection. But once you get the packages and put it together, this is actually the one that makes Squash file system. The one is going to render everything you just install and put it together in one place. If you wanted to do changes for the live distro, before we exit on the root password, it was the time to do it when you were in the chroot. That was the time to change, do any kind of branding, licensing, extra packages, whatever you needed to install. And once you have the perfect image of your operating system, your files, then it's going to be time to actually exit your root and then go through this step. This is when I put all together in that Squash, file system Squash, which eventually, ultimately, the last script is going to take that Squash FS and building, compiling to a bootable ISO. That's just about it. This part of the make squash, I was making notes. Takes a little longer at first until it gets 30%, 18% of it. Once you get 30%, it goes super fast. It jumps to 60 and it'll complete. So don't think that actually the first part is going to be representative to the real time on everything. Just the first 30% or 35%. It takes a little longer than everything else. Once you get there, you look, it just jumps to 60. It does a little bit more. It just later is going to jump faster to 73, 77. And from there, it just goes there and finishes. So the last script we want to execute is going to be 05. He's actually going to be compiling. Here we go, 62, 100%. We have the new Devuan ISO image here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this from the virtual machine to my local machine. There it goes, 9% copy, 24, 41, 70, 80. Just about there. Let me go back here. Let me make a reference. It really will be a Devuan OS. I can just go ahead and do another virtual machine. Maybe Devuan OS. I don't need any hard drives. 2 gigs of RAM. It can put 1 gig. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. It takes a little. It takes nothing on RAM. Settings on the Devuan OS, which is actually, you know what? Let's create Linux on this one. Let's create a new file, Devuan OS. Let's make it Linux. Here you go, much better. It's not based in Oracle Linux, it's just another kind of Linux on 64-bit. And let's do it 2 gigs, that's fine. I don't want to add to any hard drives. And in this case, I want to go ahead and do the settings just to make sure the display USB target is good. Storage, let's go ahead and add the new image, choose a disk on ISO, which is the Devuan OS. Oh, put in the wrong place. Okay, there we go. Now we have it. Start. And as you can see, with this Devuan OS starting, it shows the file Devuan OS live. I want to hit enter. I want to change the view to 150% for ease of the viewer. In case you're watching a mobile device, and you can see the booting of the operating system is very fast. That's all. There I am, Linux Devuan OS, COS release, Devuan GNU Linux Beowulf. You can see the version of the kernel, 4.9. This script should work for everything else. You can see that actually the screen fetch did a nice job on the Devuan OS. It looks nice, the Devuan. Using 31 megs of RAM. This is unbelievably small on RAM. And it only took about, let's see, this image only took about, what was that? 350 megs of space. So it could be running any bootable USB drive to have a full distro. We have a wget, CRL, Git, and of course the app is fully working. So as you can see, you can install everything. We can have the version of the operating system screen too. Hopefully you enjoyed. It's a very nice display of resources, and keep it up with Debian, with Devuan, and Linux in general. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye now.